Good afternoon. I'm Angela Washington, a business development specialist at the U.S. Department of Commerce Minority Business Development Agency. I'm very honored to be here today among our distinguished guests to discuss the Small Business and Innovative Research Program. We are happy to co-host with our affiliate partner, the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office, where the belief is America's innovation agency. Welcome. To my left, I'm going to start with our guest, Jesus Serrano, and Jeffrey Robinson, and Ethan Hawks will discuss the SBIR program. As you know, MBDA is a part of the U.S. Department of Commerce. We're amongst 12 bureaus. Our goal today here is to educate the nation's minority businesses on the Small Business Innovative Research Program. There are a number of federal resources that are available to you, but more in particular, funds are available to help you seed your ideas. The SBIR program is the principal federal program that funds research and development in the U.S. federal government.
Hello, Angela. My name is Jesus Soriano. I'm a program director at the National Science Foundation, and specifically in the SBIR STTR program. And I'm just going to give a few words describing the program, how it works, and then I'll let my colleagues take it from there. So what most people don't know is that the SBIR program, which stands for Small Business Innovation Research, and STTR, Small Business Technology Transfer Research, are already all programs. The SBIR was invented at NSF by somebody like me many years ago, Mr. Tibbetts, who had this idea that if we are funding research at universities, why would not we fund research in small businesses? So that was around 1976, 77, and the program started. It became so successful that more agencies started adopting it, and it became law. The STTR program was created a few years later. So the main objectives of this program are the following. There are about 11 agencies in the government that have SBIR and STTR because they have extramural research programs, meaning to say they fund research outside their building and at a tune of more than $100 million. So those agencies that spend more than $100 million outside, they have to allocate currently about 3.2% of that funding to small businesses. And those businesses, small businesses, have to meet the following characteristics. First, they have to be American companies operating and located in the United States. They can have up to 500 employees. Okay, so small business could be 2 people, it could be 499 or up to 500. They have to be owned and or controlled by U.S. individuals. That is very important. Now, under the reauthorization, the last reauthorization of the SBIR program, agencies received authority to include, if they thought it was appropriate, in the definition of ownership, the ownership by multiple venture capital groups, private equity groups, investment funds, etc. But they cannot be single groups, they have to be multiple. At this time, the NIH has adopted that authority, and I do not know at this time, my colleagues can correct me, if other agencies have done that. But the bottom line is American companies, small business, not more than 100 people, operate in the U.S., controlled and owned by U.S. individuals.
And Dr. Serrano is a program director at the National Science Foundation, where he has over 20 years of experience in technology, innovation, and commercialization. So I thank him for joining us on the panel today. Next, we have Dr. Jeffrey Robinson. He is the academic director at the Center for Urban Entrepreneurship and Economic Development, and he is also an associate professor for the Management and Global Business School at Rutgers Business School, and he is also the director of the New Jersey Social Innovation Institute, and he is going to talk about today why it matters to minority markets. We're framing this conversation.
Okay. Thank you, and
Very welcome.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'll just say a few things around why this is important for the economy, but also in particular for minority communities. We should understand a few things about the program that Dr. Soriano just talked to us about. The Small Business Innovation Research Program and the Small Business Technology Transfer Program represent the U.S. government's investment in the future. It's investment into entrepreneurial programs, innovation programs, research and development. Our federal government invests billions of dollars in this space so that we can remain globally competitive when it comes to innovation, technology commercialization. Our innovation in the United States is the global standard. Now, how do we maintain that? Let's remember that when we start talking about this topic about innovation, part of the challenge is that we have a disparity when it comes to who is actually getting funded for these kinds of projects. So there's a challenge there. We want to have a global economy. We want to have an economy in the U.S. that includes everyone and that allows for everyone to achieve. But what we see from the statistics that I've collected and other people have collected through various reports, even in the federal government, is that there's a very small number of women and underrepresented minorities who are able to take advantage of these small business types of innovation and research grant programs. So why is this important? Well, it's important because by the year 2042, the demographic makeup of the United States is going to be different than it is right now. We'll have what we call a majority-minority country, where those who are counted as part of the minority, demographically, will actually outnumber everybody else. Now that's interesting from a demographic perspective, but from an economic perspective, it means that we must have everyone participating in the economy. And that's where some of the interesting programs from the MBDA, NSF, and others who are interested in what we call the inclusive innovation space, where that becomes very critical. If we're going to maintain our competitive advantage, we can't systematically exclude people. We have to systematically include people who have been shut out because of pipeline issues, because they haven't been participating in STEM programs. We need to systematically include people into the programs that have been already mentioned here today. So to maintain our place in this global economy, we need to make sure that programs like the SBIR and STTR programs that we're talking about here today have participation from everyone. Right? The statistics that I've seen from projects that I'm working on with Amal Joshi from Oregon State University and Todd Inouye from Niagara University, we've seen, looking at 2000 to 2011 data, that the percentage of applicants that come from minority groups hovers around 4 or 5% of the total applications. You know, there are billions of dollars going into this program, and yet members of minority groups, people who have and own small businesses and are participating in this program, is a small percentage. The last check that I looked at for the National Institutes of Health, it showed us that of the applications going into the SBIR program, about 13% of those applications were submitted by women-owned small businesses. But only about 10% of the phase one, those are the ones who had actually received the awards, only about 10% of those awards were going to women-owned small businesses. That's incredibly small. I mean, think about it. In the United States, more than 51% of the population is women, and yet only 10% of these grants are going to women. Well, we can talk about all the issues that are going to contribute to that, but we want to talk about solutions today, and we want to encourage some folks who may be interested in these kinds of initiatives, these kinds of grants, to actually do them. Let me close with this. The MBDA, who's sponsoring this event today, has been proactive in thinking about what the inclusive economy should look like, what inclusive innovation should look like. They've created their own programs. They're working with universities like my university, Rutgers University, to create initiatives that will increase the number of minority-owned and women-owned businesses that are participating in this program. But let me say this. You need to go to the SBIR website. That's sbir.gov, and explore and understand how this program works. If you're a woman-owned small business owner or a scientist or an inventor, if you're a minority inventor, a scientist, or technologist, this could be a program that works for you. You might be eligible to apply and to compete for the first phase of $150,000, or go beyond that into the commercialization phase and take your ideas, which may have value to the federal government, and use that as a basis for building your innovation into the economy. Go to that website, sbir.gov, get the applications in. There are services and there's support and technical assistance that is around the country to support you in doing this. We need you to do it because we need an inclusive innovation economy.
Thank you very much, Dr. Robinson. For sure, at the MBDA, you know that we understand truly the challenges that minority communities face in accessing programs and resources, albeit at the federal, state, local, or just in industry. So it is important for MBDA to identify partners within the federal ecosystem, outside of the federal ecosystem, that help contribute to a more inclusive practices. And so I thank you for your comments and helping us frame the conversation around why it's important. We know that there are 300 plus federal labs. We know that the annual federal R&D investment is in excess of $140 billion. If you look at indirect investment, it's even more in terms of the 11 federal agencies that are participating. And then you have agencies like MBDA, where we're trying to help identify those resources for the minority business community and connect them to agencies like yours, like the National Science Foundation and USDA. So I'm very grateful and thankful for your comments today and your exciting way of getting us geared up about this. I thank you. Our third presenter is Mr. Ethan Hawks. He joins us from the USDA National Institute of Food and Agriculture. He's the SBIR program specialist there, and I was able to enjoy a great conversation with him before the event, giving us some intel in terms of his experience and what's led him here and some of the work he does at USDA, but also sharing some of the nuts and bolts of this program. So I look to you for our expertise.
Thank you. I would say Dr. Robinson is a hard act to follow in this regard. USDA, one of the unique aspects of the USDA program is that we actually offer 10 various topic areas, which pretty much stay the same every year. I've been with the agency for about 5 years, and they've all remained the same. And those 10 topic areas allow us, as far as USDA, to fund a wide variety of topics and projects from small businesses. And it's for me as a program specialist, I end up being the first line of defense, so to speak, when it comes to reviewing all of the applications, and to see these sort of projects and services and ideas that come through. It's very exciting. Just on basis, we only offer phase 1 and phase 2 of our program. So our phase 1 is a $100,000 grant, not $150 like other agencies, and that's usually for a duration of 8 months. Once you complete a phase 2, you can then apply for, a phase 1, then you can apply for a phase 2 worth up to $600,000, and that is a 2-year grant minimum. We do offer up to 1-year no-cost extensions per phase 1 and phase 2. All applicants or applications go through a peer review process. So usually we get reviewers with the fields or from the fields where the applicants are deriving their technology from, their science, from their services. So even if you don't get funded, you will receive all the reviews back verbatim from the panelists and also the summaries as well. And each topic here, like I said, we have 10. And we go from forest and related resources to animal production and protection. So we talk about forest fires, forest protection, pest with various tree species, to animal production and protection, where a lot of it, our veterinary sort of projects come in, animal vaccines, new technologies in animal husbandry. We also have plant production and technology, or plant production and protection biology, whereby we look at new innovative ways of cultivating crops, both traditional and non-traditional. We also have our air, water, soils topic area, which pretty much anything dealing with air, water, or soils really relates to it. We've had companies that have gotten SBIR phase 1 and phase 2s dealing with nitrogen elimination from water, with detecting any sort of phosphates or any sort of pollutants in agricultural runoff in that topic area. Our food science and nutrition is probably one of the, from a program side, the funnest program, because that deals with not just food safety, but also deals with childhood obesity. So we've had projects that have been funded everywhere from new ways of detecting salmonella and other pathogens in processed food to a company up in Massachusetts, Kids Kicking Kitchen, that are producing educational programs to teach kids how to eat healthy and to exercise. So there's a whole lot of different projects that are funded in there as well. And then we have aquaculture, which is very much self-explanatory. It's very much dealing with aquaculture in every way, shape, and form, from the healthy production of fish to different technologies with maintaining tank structure to also aquaponics as well. We have plant production and protection engineering. This deals with the mechanical aspect of harvesting plant cultivation. One of the most interesting projects I've seen is a company called SBIR down in Florida, where they developed a harvesting robot to harvest oranges from orchards. And then also we have biofuels and bio-based products. Small and mid-sized farms and rural community development are very much our sort of catch-them-all topic areas, because these two topics are so broad. Rural development, rural community development is also very much about stimulating rural economies. So there's so many different projects that are funded and that are sent to us for that topic area, because it's such a wide open topic that so many projects get funded. We have one company, 7th Generation Games, who have received multiple phase 1s and phase 2s from us. One of the most notable projects they have, they deal a lot with computer programs and computer gaming, and they've been very much focused on Native American populations. And I forget the name of the game. I was just looking at the video yesterday, but they developed a game based on Native American history and folklore to teach kids, middle school kids particularly, about math and science. And right now, I believe they have a phase 1 dealing with computer technology to computer programs to assist with methadone maintenance and addictions counseling as well. And then small and mid-sized farms, very much those are technologies which deal with innovations on small and mid-sized farms. And that, as you can imagine, there's so many different ideas and topics that have come out that have been funded through that topic area. So our solicitation period, right now we have an open solicitation. Our phase 1 is on the street with a deadline of October 6, 2016. How the process works is we'll receive the applications on October 6th. We'll begin checking them. We will reject any of those that don't have the information that we need, all the needed documents, program, narrative, budget, things of that nature. They'll then be reviewed by, we have a national program leader for each of our topic areas. So they'll review them. A lot of times that review is simply to make sure the science is where it needs to be, and also if it fits into the right topic area. A lot of times we will shuffle projects around based on the fact that maybe it fits in this topic area more so than the other one. From there, they'll then begin to assemble the review panels. Those panels will then review applications between around Thanksgiving and the first of the year. The panelists will write their reviews, submit them, and then we'll actually convene between January 1 and the end of February to actually discuss each and every proposal that we receive. They then rank the proposals per panel, and then based on our funding levels, we'll then recommend which proposals will be funded, and then funding date should be around June 1, 2017 for the FY 2017 year for phase 1. Phase 2, our solicitation will be out around November, December time. That's usually the time frame, with a deadline of February 23rd tentatively. Usually that last Thursday in February, and I believe next year is the 23rd of February. From there, very much the same process. We'll review all the applications. They'll then assemble a review panel. The panels will happen between pretty much the month of May, because phase 2 is a lot less applications, so the panels tend to go a lot quicker with the reviews. And then those will have a September 1 start date for 2017.
Okay, thank you. I want to go back to the top of the webinar. I wanted to get the introductions out the way. We give our overview, but I feel that these webinars sometimes are more beneficial for the audience when we can have a conversation about salient points, entry points, things that are significant. So I just want to, before we start this part of the discussion, I want to let our audience know at home, if you have questions, please enter them on the live chat. We'll be happy to answer them either on the live chat or here in the studio if we have an opportunity. So again, I want to thank our panel, and I did make a one name error, and he was gracious not to correct me during the presentation, but Eldon. I think I referenced Ethan Hawke.
Yeah, it happens all the time.
I think naturally my brain just was stimulated to that. But nonetheless, we're very appreciative of all of your time here today. And I want to be able to hit some high points for our audience. We talked particularly about the SBIR program. Hopefully we've explained it well enough. We've highlighted that there are 11 federal agencies. Just in case we didn't mention them, they are the Department of Defense, the Department of Health and Human Services, particularly NIH, the CDC and the FDA, Center for Disease Control, and Federal Food and Drug Administration. Also, the National Science Foundation, NASA, the Department of Energy, the Department of Homeland Security, the Department of Agriculture, the Department of Commerce, NIST and NOAA particularly, the Department of Education, the Department of Transportation, and the EPA. All 11 of these federal agencies make up the $2.5 billion investment, and as my good colleague Carlos would tell you, it's the world's largest non-diluted seed fund. And if you're looking for an investment that you can take directly to federal agencies and get the support and the resources that you need, it's this type of seed fund that you'll really rely on in the early phases. And that's going to lead me to really breaking this conversation down into all 3 phases of the SBIR program. Looking at phase 0, phase 1, and phase 2 for us. We know that phase 3 is very heavily commercialization, so I'll just stick with 0, 1, and 2. If I would, I'll start with you, Jeffrey, in terms of phase 0 approach. When thinking about approaching the federal government, what is it that I need to know about myself as a small business? There's always, what is it that I don't know that I should know? So going in the door.
Yeah, it's a great question. It's because that's how you get in, that's how you enter the process.
Absolutely.
I mean, the first thing you need to recognize is that you need to have something that is relevant to the federal government. And so I mentioned the website before, SBIR.gov. You just heard from the USDA about what they are looking for. He was specific about a list of items or list of topic areas. And you need to match what you have as a skill, what you have as an innovation, with what the solicitation says. And right now on that website, you can go on there and there's some, couple of hundred topics which are relevant right now for the USDA and for other agencies. So that's the first thing. You need to have something that's relevant. I think the second thing people may not understand about the program is you have to be a small business. It's called the Small Business Innovation Research Grant, Small Business Technology Transfer Grant, which means you need to have a small business. Maybe you don't have one yet. Maybe you haven't created your business yet, but that we can figure out. But in order to apply for this program, you must already be a small business. The third thing I would note is that you need to be ready to do the application. You need to have a principal investigator engaged, whether that is you as the business owner or whether it's somebody who's working with you. Depending on which program you're in, you need to be figuring out whether you need to have a university partner. If you're doing the technology transfer program, you need to have a university program as a partner, or some other nonprofit research institution. It may not be a university. So these are things people sometimes don't realize. Go to that website, SBIR.gov. There's lots of tutorials on there, information that will help you to prepare your application. Realize that the agencies do these things at different times of the year. They solicit these things at different times of the year, so you may have to return to that site to find out when the agency that you're interested in is actually doing their solicitation.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you very much. I want to turn to Jesus next, who I've butchered his name through the entire webinar, but he is a good friend, a good colleague to the Department of Commerce and NBDA. I want to talk a little specifically about the National Science Foundation, particularly your Phase Zero approach. Just some more information about your program, similar to what we were able to get from Ethan.
Eldon.
Eldon, it was a joke.
Thank you. So as we indicated in the beginning, each agency uses the SBIR, STTR programs to support their mission. The mission of NSF is really to contribute to the innovation and to the health, to the progress of America by pushing the boundaries of knowledge, by investing in early stage science and in discovery. So how do we translate that into NSF SBIR? Well, we are technology agnostic, meaning to say we cover most technologies, except that we try not to overlap with our sister agencies. And we dedicate to that $190 million. We fund every year about 400 startup companies. So where do those startup companies come from? Because some of them are folks like you who are listening and asking whether you should take the step. And my message would say, yeah, take the step. Many of our companies get started. They are businesses in order to apply, but they start operations and they receive the funds. So in terms of Phase Zero, we have certain things on the pipeline in the area of inclusivity and broadening participation that I cannot speak about, but hopefully you'll invite me soon. Yes. And we'll talk about it. Really very exciting ideas. But there is a new baby in our family at NSF. It's called the Innovation Corps, ICOR. And basically this is a program. We have now sites and nodes throughout the country. We've created an innovation network. And if you are somebody with an idea, or if you are an academic person, and you have some technology you would like to commercialize, just Google, look in the internet, ICOR, and you will find a place where we are going to give you training in a process called customer discovery to determine whether that technology, that idea that you have, has meets a market need or a societal need. So that would be one of, I would say, the most relevant Phase Zero programs we have, the ICOR.
One of the things I hear throughout federal government, particularly as it relates to the Phase One, that, and I know this is true for the Department of Commerce, that helping the applicant understand your particular process at the agency. We know that there's 11 federal agencies. Could you give us some context around the variance? Is it timing that makes it different? Objective of the agency? How do you delineate and identify yourself to a particular agency? So NSF versus USDA.
So in order to answer your question, let me bring out a slide called the NSF SBIR STTR innovation model. Excellent. And we have basically organized this model in the following way. In Phase One, we fund feasibility research. So let's say you have an idea and you want to bring it to market. Well, what you're going to do with $225,000 that we give you in Phase One, after obviously a competition, peer-reviewed, as our colleague Dr. Hawks indicated, you have $225,000, 6 to 12 months, to basically run a proof of concept feasibility study, determine whether your technology has those commercial and technical merits. Should you be successful, then you apply to Phase Two. It's $750,000 for 2 years as well. And something that a flagship program that we have is called Phase 2B. Should you raise money from the private sector, thanks to the NSF funded technology, during the Phase 1 and Phase 2, we will match that 50 cents on the dollar up to $1 million. So let's say that we fund you have a software, or you have a medical device, or you have a new material. Already in Phase 1, maybe you get a license, you sell some product, you receive an investment. You do that as well in Phase 2. Well, we will match up to $1 million with an additional $500,000. That is a program that is very successful, and those startup companies that just started with us in year 1, 3-4 years later, have raised, in average, as a group, between $40 and $90 million just for the purpose of NSF matching it. So what we try to do from the beginning is gear our folks towards you want to meet a societal need, very important, but we emphasize commercialization. We are not a procurement program like, for example, DoD could be. We don't buy anything. We give undiluted funding through a grant, but you have to be focused on commercialization.
Could I add something to that? You know, you talked about the different agencies, and we've done some research on looking and comparing what happens with the different agencies. You have 11 agencies that are involved in these programs. And to be honest, again, I'm not from the federal government, so I guess I could say it. There are 11 ways that these programs are administered. So if you know which program you're going to be going after, where your match, where your skills and your innovation, what you want to present, how it matches to one of those agencies, that's the agency you need to be spending a lot of time with, learning what they're looking for and how they talk about it. One of the things that we found very interesting in the space of inclusive innovation, trying to understand women and minority small businesses that were involved, is that those agencies, this is interesting to me, those agencies that had more diversity also were the agencies that were more likely to award Phase 1s and to move them from Phase 1 to Phase 2 for both women and minority-owned small businesses. And that's interesting. The more diverse the agency. So, at the end of the day, when we start talking about making this a national priority, it also means that each of these agencies needs to make it a priority to include in their recruitment and their promotion more women, more people of color, more underrepresented sort of scientists and technologists to go out there and to find others who would be eligible for this program.
Absolutely. That's a very good point. One of my favorite terms is market intelligence, and I deal a lot with the contract side. Very happy to learn about the vast opportunity in the innovation and R&D side. So market intelligence, I would say, is a key component of what you must do in terms of determining what that agency mission is for the United States, how they carry out that mission, what resources they use. Traditionally in government, we see a mix of funding. In federal government contracting, the federal government typically spends about $500 billion. In the last few years, you've seen a significant decrease. I think last year was somewhere roughly around about $350. That's $150 billion not being put directly into contracts. However, I've seen a significant increase in R&D funds in the president's budget request, as well as what's been granted by Congress. So when you think about supporting the nation, how are we doing that? And it seems to me that we're starting to lead that conversation with R&D. And so this is a space that you want to learn about. You want to collect as much market intelligence as you can on the federal agencies in which you seek to serve. So I think that's a very good point. I want to go down to USDA as well and just talk a little bit about your Phase 0 experience. You've given us some detail in terms of your program cycle, but just some tips and strategies for aligning that Phase 0.
Sure. We don't have a formal Phase 0 program. We've actually started this year as our first year, what we call IFAST, is actually a feeder into NSF's I-Corps program,
Oh,
where I
excellent.
believe we're sending 4 teams. They were just awarded maybe about a week or so ago, so they haven't actually started the program yet.
Okay.
And we're using some of the 3% set aside admin funds that the last reauthorization gave to us to really try to do that. Because one of the things at USDA, since we're a smaller agency, and our budget for SBIR ranges around 20 to 24 million a year, depending on legislation and farm bill and AFRI and things of that nature. We don't have a large budget to really do a lot of outreach, nor do we have a large budget to really provide any of those tools to help individuals before they get to that phase 1 step. Myself and our program coordinator, Scott Dockham, and our science coordinator, Charles Cleveland, we are the only people that work directly with SBIR. That's our main job. So this time of year, with our solicitation out, I am on the phone all day. Dr. Cleveland's on the phone. Scott's on the phone. That's a lot of it is really just, as Dr. Robinson was saying, looking at solicitation, looking at what the agency priorities are. One of the things with USDA, since we have 10 topic areas, is that it's a very large program with regards to what we accept, much like NSF. A lot of things can fit in. You can even propose things that you may not necessarily think fit, but we may fund it simply because we don't purchase any of those sort of items that we fund. It's all about the pursuit of science. It's all about the pursuit of USDA goal and mission in that regard. So I would say to anyone applying, it's something I say to anyone that calls, read the application, the solicitation. What you don't understand, ask questions. I'm getting questions right now as we're sitting here with people asking about the application, what goes in this line, what goes in that line. One of the things about, and I've spoken with a lot of individuals who work with the SBIR program in various agencies, we're all very helpful and want to help applicants fulfill and submit the best application that they can. You know, there's only so much we can do as program staff and coordinators. We can't do it for you, but we want to make sure you send in the best application as possible. We have no issues as far as sending you to resources on the web. I've sat on the phone my first 2 years ago with people for, you know, an hour to just kind of helping them go through everything and sitting with them. You know, it's a lot of time from my day, but that's what I'm here for, and for to help applicants apply to the program. Because one of the reasons I'm here, one of the reasons why we've increased outreach as a whole, as far as SBIR is concerned, from all the agencies, because we want more applicants. Right now, we receive, I say on average, between 450 to 550 applications for phase 1 every single year. And with our budget, we traditionally are only able to fund about 15%. During sequestration, that was really down to about 12%. And when they reauthorized the farm bill, actually, we got a little bit of a bump that year, so we were able to fund about 20% for phase 1. So that really only is about 60 to 80 phase 1s per year. Right now, we're funding 77 for FY 2016. And part of that is because we try to make sure we have enough money to fund 50% of the phase 2s. Which is why, and I talked about before, our deadline for phase 2 is right around that time that we're ending the review period for phase 1 and we're making those decisions. So that way we know how many phase 2s we have in. We know about how many we want to fund, so we make sure we have enough funds for that 50% of phase 2, and thus affecting how many we can fund for phase 1.
Excellent. Good insight. I always say, tell me something I can't Google. I don't think I could have Googled all of that. So, no, thank you. Just real quick, I want to kind of get some perspective also from NSF on that before I sort of transition over officially to phase 1.
So let me share with you a couple of data points that could surprise you, because we at NSF are so focused on getting people started in an inclusive way. I want you to know that over the last few years, at least 72% of the companies we fund are less than 5 years old. 90% of the companies we fund have less than 10 employees. And 80% of the companies we fund have never received SBIR funding whatsoever. So our mission is really to get those companies that are starting, that are even pre-seed stage, and they risk their technology so they can then apply to other agencies without abusing the system. We want them to commercialize. We don't want them to become dependent on the system, because this is an incentive and not a subsidy. And also for the private sector then to take over It's very important. That's why we don't have a phase 3 program at NSF. The phase 3 program is now the private sector who has to, if we've done a good job in partnership with those entrepreneurs and scientists, they have technologies that solve market needs and societal needs. So investors normally jump in through just pure investments or sometimes many acquisitions. So I just want to make that point because if you feel that you have been left behind, that you don't have a chance for any reason, well, come to NSF, come to USDA, come to SBIR.gov, and you're going to see that you don't even need a PhD. There's this myth that because SBIR is business research, you don't need a PhD, you don't need a master's.
You need a good idea.
You need a good idea, and you need a team. And the
right.
team is everybody who has that talent that you need to develop that technology. And here, at least at NSF, we take a lot of risk. We take risk on you. We're going to watch you very closely so you don't do anything wrong. But we want you to succeed. So in addition to money, we're going to give you training. We're going to give you coaches. We're going to introduce you to companies, to investors. We're going to give you a lot of media exposure. And something that we give you that you could not even believe is we change you as a person. We have many scientists, entrepreneurs, who maybe finish their PhD or their master's and they want to commercialize something, and they grow up with us. And after 5-6 years, you see them changed. And these people are going to become, some of them have raised a lot of money, become successful, and they are going to start mentoring other people in the communities. And with that money that they make, they're going to become angel investors. So it's just not about the technology and the companies and the economic development. We are also trying to change people's lives.
Yeah, I mean, that just underscores the point why we need to get more people from different communities to be involved in this. It starts a cycle which can feed back into the community to breed more businesses and the like. People ask me all the time, where are the grants? Where are the grants to start a business? Okay. I usually say there are no grants, but there is one exception to that.
There's an exception.
This is it.
This is it.
This is seed funded. It's your tax dollars coming back to you.
Absolutely.
It is seed funding. It's a grant they give you. Now you have to have a plan as to how you're going to use it. You need to do the applications and things, but this is one of those rare instances that if you have a great idea that fits the solicitations that are out there, you have a chance of getting some of this money to start your business and to feed into the innovation economy.
No, I really appreciate that. Having been with the agency since 1999, I can tell you there's no single greater question that comes into
right.
our office is, how can I get a grant? And I think I'm going to steal from your philosophy and take that back and build around it. But speaking on that particularly, at the top of the webinar, I had some notes that I couldn't find. So my introduction went a little in a different place. But one of the things that I was to mention is that in 2014, NBDA had a great opportunity to work with the chair of the Federal Laboratory Consortium on behalf of the Department of Commerce. It was a really unique opportunity. The chair at the time happens to be assigned, obviously, to the Department of Commerce to administer our NOAA and NIST SBIR program. And through this relationship, we started to get a greater look into the federal government, and we found that there were a number of federal agencies like the NSF who wanted to diversify their portfolio in terms of the type of companies, the size of companies that are accessing this particular seed money. And for minority businesses, it is a refreshing opportunity to have so few barriers in the way of accessing these funds for the purpose of starting or expanding a business, while it may be technology-based. So I want to definitely recognize the NBDA team for developing the I3 program, which is the Inclusive Innovation Program. And it's very much focused on how do we direct minority firms, diverse firms, to these incredible programs and resources that already exist. While we don't have a formal SBIR funded program, if you will, at NBDA, we work very closely with the other 11 agencies to make sure that their solicitations are marketed to a more diverse community. And we found that there are a number of organizations who are already working with minority firms that feed into these federal programs. So it's a system and it's a process that is working. But to your point, it is definitely a objective of many of the federal agencies to ensure that their programs have an inclusive representation. We had a small conversation about that. If you want to talk a little bit about your agency's efforts in terms of diversifying its access to the community and how they can directly get engaged with your agency, it would be great. But I want to use one of the questions to set the framework for that. One of the questions that came in is there a particular process for soliciting to the federal government according to the types of innovative products that one has to offer? I'll start with you.
I'll take that one. And I think Dr. Robinson, at the beginning, direct you to go to SBIR.gov, where you're going to have the basically overview of all the programs by all the agencies with all the topics. So if you have an idea or a product under development, go to SBIR.gov and spend your time doing your homework. Specifically at NSF, because I said we were technology agnostic, we do, I'm going to give you the list, don't fall asleep, educational technologies, informational technologies, semiconductors, photonics, Internet of Things, electronics, hardware, robotics, wireless, advanced manufacturing, nanotechnology, advanced materials, instrumentation, chemical, environmental technologies, biological technologies, and then smart health and biomedical. I'm very proud of that last one because I developed it. And you start seeing, by the way, now through our efforts and the efforts of the SBA, this road tour where many of us jump on a tour and we don't do politics, we just go talk to the communities and we spread the word. We are seeing proposals from areas and communities who were not participating, and it's really cool.
Absolutely good.
So there you have it.
I actually went on one of the road tours in June. It was a great experience. I went to parts of the country I'd never been to before. But at USDA, one of the things we've been doing outside of the road tours, I talked about we have different topic areas, and we have national program leaders, one per topic area, and they actually spread out within all of the 4 institutes of NIFA. So we have individuals who have varying backgrounds. I myself am an 1890 college graduate, so I went to Maryland Eastern Shore. I received my bachelor's and master's there, so I've made a point to try to go back every year and talk at his small and mid-sized farm days.
Absolutely.
Other NPLs go to their professional conferences. Some others are 1890 scholars, so they also go back as well. Even my department head, he taught at 1890. He's on the committee, so he goes back to different conferences. He's very much trying to make 1890s and women-owned businesses very much aware of the program. We do webinars all the time as a group with anybody that we can to really go out, because obviously we don't have that much of a travel budget to go everywhere, but we try to get awareness out there as much as possible. And I just want to follow up on some of the things Dr. Soriano said about the NSF program. Talks about how we changed in the assistance. One of the things that the legislation reauthorization did was it mandates us to offer funding for commercialization assistance. Some agencies give flat out, I believe it's up to $5,000 if I remember that correctly. But what we do is we've contracted with the company out of Los Angeles for our phase 1 and phase 2. And our phase 1 award win is optional, but we employ that everyone uses it, allows them the opportunity to get guidance in developing their commercialization plan and commercialization strategy, because that's a critical part of a phase 2 application. Ultimately, we want everything to be commercialized. In our phase 2 commercialization systems program is very much, we actually bring all of our phase 2 winners to DC. And it's a 2.5-day workshop where they get instruction on patents, it's like a Shark Tank sort of thing where they give elevator pitches, they give critiques, and we also have previous phase 2 winners who've gone to commercialization who come back and talk about the pitfalls and the challenges that they went through in order to commercialize their technology that was funded through USDA as well.
I want to use our last 10 minutes very judiciously, if I may. I'm going to address, I think, what is a very good question that came in through the the web chat. And you mentioned the iCorps program. You also mentioned that your office was leveraging the iCorps program. But our audience would like a little more clarity on the iCorps program and who it's intended for. Is it for a company that have an SBIR grant, or is it just an open program to help you get started?
So the iCorps program was created by NSF. I need to claim the credit.
All right.
And the idea at the time was that since NSF invests $7.5 billion in fundamental research, and we wanted to accelerate or distill some of that research into market applications.
Okay.
The iCorps program started as a training program based on the lean startup model, whereby one academic professor and maybe a student who would take the lead later on SBIR and a business expert would create a team of 3 people and go through a training process under high pressure, a bit like the Shark Tank style, where they have to contact 100 customers over a period of a few months, and they need to start determining whether that research that they have in the lab meets anybody's needs. So as they are doing research, they call, let's say I'm developing plastic, and then I'm going to call a bottle manufacturer. I said, well, what problems do you have? I'm not calling to sell my bottle or my plastic. I'm calling to see what problems do they have and whether my technology is going to inform a solution. So that started for NSF-funded technologies, but it was so successful, and with the support of sister agencies and OSTP at the White House, now we have sites throughout the country where anybody, whether you have a company or not, you are welcome. And as I said, just search on the internet iCorps, and it's impossible that you don't have a site that you can attend. Now, NIH has done something very smart. They have applied the iCorps program to phase 1 SBIR. So those companies have already been selected. Again, it's like 15%, I guess, more or less would be their award rate. So they are starting with very good material. Those companies have proven themselves a little bit by being awarded, and then they focus their efforts in really determining or trying to understand the commercial potential of those technologies.
Excellent. I'm going to go to USDA one more time. As it relates to your IP rights, do you lose your IP rights with SBIR funding?
Not with USDA. The IP is yours. As I said, we make no claim to any IPs or any technology that's derived. We do reserve the right to use it, but we don't own it whatsoever.
Okay.
And same thing for NSF. Under the Bayh-Dole Act, you retain title to any intellectual property right you develop. The government retains a royalty-free license, but it has been extremely, extremely rare that the government uses it. So we pay for it, you own it. That's good deal.
Very good deal.
So I see that I have a minute just to throw in the last question. I'd like to be able to answer the audience questions, so I'm going to take the liberty to throw it out there. This is more about phase 1 or phase 2. If we can give a quick answer to this, I want to wrap up with some tips for our participants today. The question that came in, the last question that came in is, do you have a program designed for independent inventors that will qualify for either phase 1 or phase 2 that can be used for research and startup?
Yes.
Yeah,
Come to nsf.gov/SBIR.
I'll just add that we at Rutgers Business School and the Center for Urban Entrepreneurship and Economic Development, we are working with MBDA on a program just like this, looking at inventors, technologists, scientists, in particular, people coming from underrepresented groups in the SBIR program. So if you want to learn more about that, you should find us at Rutgers Business School. We can get you in touch with the right people who are organizing that program, because that's exactly what it's for.
Okay.
That's actually part of what we're using the iCorps for, as far as to help those inventors actually create a business to go through the SBIR program. But other than that, we don't have any sort of formal sort of mechanism to allow that to happen outside of forming a business and submitting an application?
Eldon Jeffrey Jesus, when thinking about approaching the federal government, as we leave out, just in terms of a recap, some of what we've talked about today was doing the market intelligence, SBIR.gov, understanding that there's resources and training and more there. We understood that the federal government has in excess of $140 billion that it invests in R&D. There's direct technical assistance at the labs in the federal agencies. I'm a phase 0, phase 1. What should I need to know? Your best tips, 30 seconds.
Our names and emails and phone numbers are on our website.
Okay.
Call the program director. At NSF, the program directors there work full-time and only on this, and our job is to serve the public. So call us, write to us, share your ideas, and we are waiting for you.
Excellent. I love to be able to call someone. Even in our new day of technology, Facebook won't get it for me. I love Instagram. I love to be able to pick up the phone and just simply say help. So you're telling me that if I have an idea, I have this burning desire to connect with the agency, just pick up the phone and call.
And if it's too late at night, you can go to our YouTube channel. We have a great YouTube channel.
Excellent.
That's awesome.
Excellent.
That's it.
For us, it's just read the solicitation, follow the directions. If you have any questions, every single contact information from every topic area to myself and Scott Dockham are in that document.
So we can pick up the phone and call you as well.
Yes.
Excellent. Now, from Rutgers,
Hey.
I know you're a business school. You probably have a plethora
I know we're out of time. Look, SBIR.gov. Go there, find out the information.
Okay, thank you. Well, I want to thank you all for joining us today for this discussion about SBIR. I hope it's been very informative to you. I hope that we've directed you to a number of resources and help you understand the environment in which you can participate. This is the second of 3 webinar series that we planned here at the U.S. Department of Commerce, NBDA, and U.S. Patent and Trademark Office. The next webinar series on SBIR Phase 2 and Phase 3 will happen on this Thursday at 2 p.m. If you have not already done so, please go to our website, www.mbda.gov, sign up for those webinars, learn more about some of the inclusive programs that we have at NBDA, as well as throughout the rest of the federal government. Thank you for joining us. And I'd like to thank our panelists as well, and my colleagues, Demetria Gallagher, Carlos Gutierrez, and Julius Mina. We debate about that, but he says Mina. So thank you very much.